Okay, good to see everybody. Appreciate you guys. We are deep in the preparations. Last week we spent time on all four of the potential teams doing the preliminary work, a lot of film study, a lot of analytics, things like that. Since then, since Houston won, we have been dialed in on Houston since the end of that game till now, continuing till about 7:30 tonight, and then we'll see if we have to pivot to Pittsburgh. So that's where we're at with that. What questions do you have?
John, you mentioned Houston, and I think when you guys played week one, you talked about them being, a very good football team. What's different about them now, then versus now?
For Houston, or we would come in the afternoon to do our preliminary work for Pittsburgh.
How did things go Saturday at the stadium? Did you get stuff accomplished? I mean, not knowing still again what lies in store.
I thought it was really good, Jerry. I mean, we had an hour and a half practice. We were running around fast, timing, execution, good spirits. It was cold and windy, and we had a sense of the stadium. I think it was good to get in there psychologically, just to feel that. Just even driving down to the stadium, you kind of felt like, oh, it's like a game, because that's what we do. We drive to the stadium for our home games. All of that, to me, helped us stay kind of psychologically in the right place.
John, what will go into your evaluation of whether to elevate Dalvin Cook as soon as this weekend?
It'll be, we have options. The nice thing is, with the way the rules are now, we have those options. So we'll just look at it and say, from a game plan standpoint and opportunity standpoint, what makes our team the strongest at this particular time based on what we're going to try to do offensively.
John, we've asked you a lot over the years about preparing for weather conditions, probably usually rain, but I mean, in this case, the forecast is for it to be very cold, unusually cold for here. Is there anything to do to prepare for that, or not really?
Well, I mean, it's not going to be as cold as it was in Kansas City. And it's not going to be as much snow as there was in Buffalo. So we're good. We're good. Let's go. We feel okay about it.
John, I'm sure we'll see more later this week, but Zay Flowers, is the expectation that he would practice this week?
Yeah, we're pretty optimistic about everybody, and then varying degrees of optimism with certain guys. And really, I mean, it's just like any week, you just have to see it unfold. I mean, some guys are good to go. Other guys are going to be more day by day.
How big was this rest week just for you, seeing how your players look coming back, whether it be health or just energy-wise?
Could you say it again?
How big was the rest week for you guys from that standpoint with health or energy, just kind of getting some time off? Yeah,
I think it was good, just from the mental standpoint, also certainly the recovery standpoint. I mean, it's late season of a long season. We had a lot of very physical games down the stretch, and every one of our games was a meaningful game for us and for our opponent until the last one, which was still meaningful for them, and most of our guys played. So I think the mental rest was valuable. You work hard to get that bye. I don't think anybody's ever requested not to have the bye when they earned it, have they? So it's definitely a positive, and I think I know our guys looked at it that way, and we had a really good week of practice, so we did what we needed to do.
John, I recognize you can't look ahead. You mentioned, you were looking at the 4 teams you might play. There's also teams you could play the AFC Championship game you have not seen yet this year. How much time do you spend looking at even those teams this week? Well,
that's preliminary work that we do. So we will look at the 2 teams that are playing in the other divisional game this week with the individual, the coaches and the staff that are assigned those jobs, and they'll have all that information organized. After we have an opportunity if we're going to play those guys in one of those teams in the game.
John, because so much rides on this afternoon's game, kind of, when you play, who you play, everything. How much will you be watching this afternoon's game? It's
going to be hard not to watch. It's going to be hard not to. I'd like to think I'll have the bulk of my work, my own personal work done by then. I mean, been working hard at it for a lot of days now. Even though it was other teams, and a lot of it seems like it's wasted. You still do learn a lot of football, but as far as the Houston stuff, it's going to be hard not to keep an eye on that game for sure.
John, is there any level of frustration or anticipation with just how the circumstances forced the game to be moved to Monday, and your certainty on who your opponent is when you're playing, your entire schedule is forced to be not until figured out until tonight?
Yeah, really, I mean, no, there's no frustration. It's just, it's the way it goes, you know? It's okay. We're excited to be in this situation. We're fired up to have an opportunity to play in the divisional round of the playoffs. That's deep in the playoffs, you know, as we see it. And we're hoping to, you know, do the best we can, put our best foot forward, play our best football game of the season. That's all that's on our minds.
As much as you were able to absorb the games in between work this weekend, was there something maybe you saw that maybe you wrote down and said, that's maybe something I'd take note of and I should be passing along to the guys? Anything you gleaned from any of those games?
Yeah, you probably do from a playoff standpoint. I mean, there were teams that came out and played really well. There were teams that came out and didn't play well, you know, and you take notice of that and you try to say, well, why? You know, why are those things happening to that team? That's not something they expected. So it's, I think all the guys do the same thing. You know, I might mention it somewhere along the way to some degree, but the game last night, both teams played great, you know, so we just got to be focused on playing our best football. We're gonna, you know, we want to be focused, but we want to be loose at the same time. Those two things are very important, and that's what we'll shoot for.
John, it's been, I think we're coming up on a year now since you guys promoted Scott Elliott to strength and conditioning coordinator. I guess, you know, considering all the attention paid to Steve, fairly or unfairly, what made you guys decide to kind of keep it in-house, and what have you been impressed by for, you know, you guys staying healthy, being strong, everything that kind of goes in that position?
Yeah, you know, couldn't, in the end, looking back on it in terms of making the choice to stay in-house and to go with Scott and the rest of the staff there, we have a great group with Ron, with Anthony, with Kay. They're all three do a fantastic job, and Sam Rosengarten put in that category as well from a performance standpoint. But Scott led it, and it was really an evolution of what we had been doing. We felt we were doing a lot of great things in the weight room. We felt like we had a really good program, and you know, I have a lot of respect for Steve Saunders. I think he worked really hard and did a heck of a job, and made us a strong and in-condition football team. And then Scott, you know, through the circumstances that take place, they are what they are. And Scott stepped in, you know, maybe a little bit of a tough circumstance, right? And just handled it just gracefully and aggressively, and did a great job. I think he's one of the stars of the season. You know, not just Scott, but the whole group that I just mentioned before. That weight room is one of our stars of the season for sure. They've just done phenomenal. The guys love going in there. They work really hard. I think it's very comprehensive in what we do. And I'm in there. I'm in there every day, you know, with people, and, you know, maybe not quite as much weight, you know, as some of the guys, but I think it's just a great environment that we have in there.
John, you know, when you look at this team, obviously there's a lot of veteran guys who've won, all the young talent, Mike McDonald and what he's done, and Todd as well, and yourself. What has stood out to you, I guess, from the makeup of this group?
Staff?
No, I'm sorry, the team.
The team. I just think and believe that this is one of the most connected teams I've ever been around, you know, and I think it starts with the fact that I really believe they love one another. You know, I think they have a kind of a spiritual connection that runs through the whole team. I think the guys, you can just tell when a group of people like being around one another, like working together, trust one another, believe in one another, and want to see everybody succeed. You know, the idea that if one of us succeeds, we all succeed. I see that with this group as much or more than any other team that I've been around in, you know, 40 plus years of coaching. So that's a real joy to be around. And it's a reflection of all the people that are involved. It's a reflection of all the different individuals that go up to make the group, the culture, whatever you want to call it, the environment, the worldview that they take on the challenges that are in front of them. And I admire everybody in those seats that sit right there in our team meeting. I admire every single person sitting in those seats.
All right, John, how much easier is it when you're preaching to these guys about, I'm not, obviously everyone's gonna be focused on the playoffs, but just throughout the season, when your quarterback is constantly talking about staying locked in and staying in the moment, when Lamar's constantly preaching that message, how much does that help the coaching staff?
Tremendous. I mean, it's a player's game, and the team belongs to the players. When when you're coming up, you played sports in high school or college, right? What do they always say? You know, it's the seniors run the team. It's the senior leadership is the key. You got to have great senior leadership. And that's true in the NFL too. You've got to have great senior leadership. And we have that. Our seniors, you know, and I don't mean like old age type seniors, you know, I mean our veteran players and our best players are also our hardest workers. They're our most responsible guys. And that's what drives the whole thing through the whole deal. So, you know, you talk about vision. The vision, basically, the definition of vision is a shared understanding. You know, we have a shared understanding of what's required and what we need to do and how we're going to go about doing it. And I just feel like those guys drive that every single day. Locker room, meeting room, practice field, hanging out, going to dinner, whatever it might be. That gets reinforced all the time. And once it gets reinforced all the time, it kind of centers back on itself and gains momentum. And next thing you know, it's rolling.
Okay.
All right, thanks. All right, appreciate it.